Welcome. Let's get you strategically prepped for November 5th, 2025. We're going to break down all the essential current affairs you'll need to know for your UPSC exam.
So, here's our game plan for today. We've laid this out to perfectly match how you'd be studying for your GS papers. We'll start with the big headlines, then we'll dive deep into the nitty-gritty.
All right, let's jump right into the most critical developments that happened today.
So 4 major stories are on our radar, and they're all shaping the national conversation. We're talking about the Surrogacy Act going under the Supreme Court's microscope, a potential economic hit from the U.S. Hires Act, a pretty sobering UN emissions report, and a massive voter revision exercise.
Okay, let's peel back the first layer here. We're going to focus on some really crucial updates in polity and governance. So this is the big question, you know? The Supreme Court is looking at the Surrogacy Regulation Act of 2021, and what they're really deciding is this. If a couple already has one child but can't have another naturally, can the government legally stop them from choosing surrogacy?
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for your GS paper 1 and 2 notes. You've got the petitioners on one side saying, hey, this specific section of the act is stepping on our fundamental reproductive rights. But on the other side, the union government is defending it, saying it's a totally valid and necessary regulation. It's that classic push and pull, right? State regulation versus individual rights. Okay, shifting gears to another hot topic in governance. Down in Tamil Nadu, there's a disagreement over the appointment of the Director General of Police, or DGP. The UPSC is holding its ground, and this whole thing isn't just some administrative squabble. It's bringing a really critical set of guidelines back into the conversation.
And this is exactly what we're talking about, the Practice Shane Guidelines. If you're studying for GS Paper 2, you know these are a huge deal. They were created to keep police forces free from political meddling, make sure appointments are based on merit, and, build in some real accountability. This case, it's like a real-world stress test for those principles. Next up, this massive undertaking by the Election Commission, the Special Intensive Revision. Get this, they're cleaning up the voter rolls for about 51 crore people using some pretty cool tech from CDAC to find duplicates. But it's not all smooth sailing. It's causing some friction, with Tamil Nadu calling the whole thing arbitrary. And, interestingly, the exercise in Bihar found no evidence of large-scale illegal immigration, which is a pretty significant data point given all the political noise around it.
All right, let's move on and see how this all builds into that critical area where the economy and the environment, well, they collide. And right now, both are facing some pretty big challenges.
So let's talk about this number, 25%. This is the proposed tax under a new U.S. Act on payments for outsourced work. Now, if this goes through, it could seriously impact India's IT, BPO, and consulting sectors. This is definitely one to watch for your GS Paper 3 prep.
And this slide right here, wow. It really paints a picture of the challenge India's facing. On one hand, we have these incredible goals with the Green India mission, restoring land, building a massive carbon sink. But on the other hand, you have the latest UN report saying global emissions are at an all-time high, and India actually saw the sharpest increase. This contrast is at the absolute core of your GS Paper 3 analysis.
And it's not just that. There's a lot happening on the economic front. Jeevan Praman is using face authentication for pensioners, a great example of e-governance in action. The government's also pumping 400 crore rupees to get mining restarted in Goa. There's a big acquisition in Odisha, and UP is just, well, it's full steam ahead on building out its expressways.
Okay, time for a rapid-fire round. We're going to cover tech, social issues, and some key security updates that you absolutely need on your radar.
Wow, just look at this chart for a second. It's really telling. India isn't just playing catch-up in the AI game, we are leading the pack. A 92% adoption rate at work, that puts us way ahead of the regional and global averages. That is a critical piece of data for understanding our digital economy right now.
And sticking with AI, this is a huge deal. OpenAI just launched something called IndiQA. It's basically a test to see how well AI understands Indian culture and 12 different Indian languages. This is so important for making sure that artificial general intelligence, or AGI, works for everyone in India, not just the English-speaking population.
And this is a tough one. This statistic, a 60% jump in eye problems in Delhi right after Diwali, it just hits home, doesn't it? It's a direct, measurable health impact of air pollution. This is a topic that just keeps coming up for both GS Paper 1 and 3.
On the crime front, the Mahadev online book app case just keeps getting bigger. The Supreme Court is now telling the Enforcement Directorate to track down one of the co-founders. It just goes to show you how incredibly difficult it is to tackle these complex, cross-border cybercrimes.
And to round things out, a few other quick but important points. In West Bengal, the school scam list is out. Internationally, our External Affairs Minister has highlighted the trust and reliability in India-Israel relations. In Bihar, migration for jobs is still a central election topic. Sadly, there was a deadly clash in Ranipur. And, a sobering fact for your prelims, 2023 saw the highest number of road deaths per capita ever recorded in India.
Okay, deep breath. That was a lot of information, right? So the big question is, how do you actually turn all of this into marks on your exam?
It's actually a pretty simple framework. I want you to think about it in 3 steps. First, go back and spot those keywords, things like Prakash Singh guidelines or AGI. Second, connect every single story back to a specific part of your GS syllabus. And third, and this is probably the most important part, start framing your own practice questions based on what happened today.
And that's the key, isn't it? It's all about making this an active process. You can't just passively consume the news. You have to engage with it, connect the dots, ask why it matters. That's how you really build that deep understanding you're going to need.
So we'll leave you with this to chew on, a question pulled straight from today's headlines. It pulls together tech, the economy, and social justice. Really think about it for your mains prep. Thanks for joining, and we'll catch you on the next one.